Cole Caufield has long been a fascinating hockey player. If you look back at his stats prior to the NHL, you'll find that, at every level, he averaged close to, or more, than a goal per game. Caufield has long been known as a high-end, high-talent sniper throughout his career. Despite this, Caufield was passed over 14 times in the 2019 NHL Draft, notably twice by the Flyers. And was sent down to the AHL in the same year that he went on to average .88 points per game over 41 games in an NHL season. Cole Caufield has been doubted his whole career, and today we'll look at what he's been through so far in his young career and what the future holds for him in the NHL. In his draft year, Cole Caufield played 64 games for the U.S. National Development Team. In those 64 games, he scored 72 goals and had a total of 100 points. That's more goals and the same amount of points as eventual first overall pick Jack Hughes, albeit in more games. The thing that makes Caufield significantly less appealing than Hughes to GMs, aside from him being a winger and Hughes the center, is his size. If you look at any scouting report from Caufield's draft year, you'll generally find the same information. He's got an incredible shot, he's an excellent skater, but he might be too small. He's tied records held by Alexander Ovechkin. He's got excellent hands, but he might be too small. Often compared to Alex DeBrincat because of this, Caufield looked to be another prospect with every tool necessary to score at the NHL level. Having expected GMs to learn their lesson from DeBrincat, Caufield was projected as a slam dunk pick within the top 10 by most scouts and draft analysts. Draft day came. Caufield made it through the top 5. He made it past the first 10 picks. And then finally, at number 15, the Montreal Canadiens selected Cole Caufield. Caufield's plan was to play in the Big Ten the year after he was drafted. He played 36 games for the University of Wisconsin, scoring 19 times and adding 17 assists for a total of 36 points. This was below the insane standards Caufield had set for himself by playing so well previously, but still great production. His next year was closer to his previous seasons. Caufield played 31 games for the University of Wisconsin. He scored 30 goals in those 31 games, had 52 points, and led the league in points by 11. After the Big Ten season had ended, Caufield had earned his shot playing professionally. On March 27, 2021, Cole Caufield signed his entry-level deal with the Montreal Canadiens, and was off to make his professional debut. Caufield started in the AHL for the Laval Rocket, but that didn't last long. He only played 2 games for the Rocket, scoring 3 times and adding an assist. That was enough to convince the Habs that they needed him up in the NHL to help them through the end of their season. And for somebody that was still only 20 years old and very undersized by NHL standards, Caufield did an excellent job. His first goal came as the overtime game winner against the Ottawa Senators. He added 3 more goals and an assist throughout his first 10 NHL games, showing that Caufield was more than capable of translating his game to the NHL. What came next was an even bigger challenge, the NHL playoffs. The Habs had qualified out of the All-Canadian division and were matched up against the Toronto Maple Leafs in round 1. Caufield assisted on Game 5's overtime winner, and the Habs advanced past round 1. He added 3 assists during the 4-game second-round sweep of the Winnipeg Jets, including another overtime assist, this time the series clincher. Third round against the Vegas Golden Knights was where Caufield really shined. In this series, Caufield scored the first 4 goals of his playoff career, and proved he was ready for the bright lights of Montreal, becoming perhaps their most important forward at this point in the playoff run. Unfortunately, the magical run came to an end against Tampa Bay. The Bolts held the Habs to only 8 goals throughout the 5-game series, none of which were scored by Caufield. Still, this run was a massive win for the Habs and Caufield, both of whom were expected by nobody to have such great performances. All in all, Caufield had 4 goals, 8 assists, and 12 points in his first ever playoff run as a 20-year-old undersized winger. Fans were thrilled to look ahead to next season and watch a potential superstar develop right in front of their eyes. For the first half of the 2021-22 NHL season, it was an absolute disaster scenario for both the Habs and Cole Caufield. Only 6 months after being in the Cup final, the Habs were at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, having played 27 games and earning only 15 points in the standings. What's worse is that Caufield was failing to perform up to the standards he had set in the playoffs. On November 1st, 2021, the Habs had actually sent Caufield back down to the AHL, after he had only contributed 1 assist through his first 10 games. After 6 games in the minors, he was called back up. His performance improved slightly, but things still weren't great. By February 9th, things had reached their lowest point. The Habs were last in the NHL, 5 points behind the Arizona Coyotes. Cole Caufield had played 30 games, scored only once, and assisted on only 7 goals. Head coach Dominique Ducharme was fired, and while the Habs were long out of the playoff race, some of the season would be saved once Martin St. Louis took over as interim head coach. At the point where Ducharme was fired, Cole Caufield had 8 points through 30 games. After playing game 40 of the season, Cole Caufield had 20 points through 40 games. Whether it was because Ducharme was holding him back, because St. Louis spurred him on, or a combination of the two, from this point on, Caufield was back to his old self. Another 10 games, and now Caufield was up to 32 points. Another 10, and he had 38. And eventually, Cole Caufield closed out his 2021-22 NHL rookie season with 23 goals, 20 assists, and 43 points over 67 games, good for a production rate of 0.64 points per game. On its own, those are very solid rookie numbers. But considering that he had 35 points in 37 games after the Martin St. Louis hiring, it's safe to say Cole Caufield had a great first year playing for the Montreal Canadiens. So, where does this leave Caufield and the Habs going forward? Well, on June 1st, 2022, Martin St. Louis was officially hired as the full-time head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. Cole Caufield will have the opportunity next year to get a full season under his belt with St. Louis guiding his development. St. Louis and Caufield are the perfect match, as St. Louis too was a high-skill small forward who had superstar potential, and eventually became one in Tampa Bay. He knows exactly what to teach Caufield, and the numbers speak for themselves. Cole Caufield has been doubted his whole career, but with all the stars aligned ahead of next season, don't be surprised if this is the year that Caufield breaks out into superstar status.